And welcome back. This is episode 30 of Comics That Influence with Jake and Kurt. I'm Kurt Brugel, and you are?
Jake Jacobs. How's it going, Kurt?
Good. We're the dynamic duo that's working on a comic book called Turbo Teaser. And we do a podcast every week,
It's
and
called
it's called
Turbo
Making
Pig Pen.
Turbo. What did I call it? Turbo Teaser. Yeah. Well, we made a Turbo Teaser, which you can buy the first 6 pages and support us and check things out. But we're the only podcasters that are working on the same comic book side by side in two screens, just like you see now. So jump out of this one at the end of the episode and check that out if you're not already doing that. But Jake, hey, we've got two ancient comics. What year is that book? Can you find out what that year of the book is?
Well, I'm guessing it's in the 80s. You said you were familiar with this stuff,
I think it's
right?
like 84. I think it's 84.
Yeah.
Mine's 1980. It's not really
Wow.
a comic book, but I have a.
So this says 85.
Oh, okay. I was just 1 year off because I do remember buying that as a wee lad teenager. So we want to flip a coin, or do you want to go first, or you want me to go
Well, who went
first?
first last time?
I can't remember. It's been so long.
Um,
Why don't you go first? Why don't you go first? Because I'm really excited to share Blackmoon with everybody, yourself included, because I was a collector of Blackmoon. There's only three issues, and this
okay.
would be somebody I would love to get on the show. So, but
Yeah.
let's go ahead and
Okay.
let you
Well, we got
share.
the origin story here, so that's interesting. Yeah, this was a comic, and I picked it up in the two for a dollar pile in Poughkeepsie, Mid Hudson Comic Con. As soon as I saw this, I said, "Oh, I'm grabbing this, no question about it." This is a power comic, which means, it was independently produced by what appears to be a non-professional comic book artist and publisher. And you were talking before about the I guess the negatives of rushing a comic out, but that's all that was happening in the 80s. Is
Oh
like
yeah.
it was like breakneck. People were like rushing to get something out, and they were so young and ambitious, and you
Well,
can't
because
wait
it
to.
felt like anything would sell. That was the whole thing. Is like it felt like anything would sell. And to be honest with you, there wasn't a lot of really good stuff out there, if any at all. And especially this kind of like espionage ninja thing that I was into when I was like 12, 13, 14 years old.
Uh-huh.
I would just buy it. I wouldn't even flip through it. It was just because you'd be like six new comics that came out that month, independent wise.
Yeah. Um, well, and so this is, now in 2023, like who would have foresaw the future? This says our future's only hope is here today. And so now, off in the future, we're many, many decades later.
Oh, I love it.
So this
I
was
love
out of
it.
East Lancaster, PA. Oh no, it was out of Wayne, PA, East Lancaster.
Yeah, that's the. Oh, so here's the thing about this, because I'm trying to track these guys down. I think I've actually tracked one of them down. There was a comic book store in Wayne, PA, and right now I can't remember. I'll flash something up there, and they produced this comic. That was the whole thing. It was like there was a store in, it was called the Comic Zone in New Jersey, over near Marlton, New Jersey. They were the ones that were doing Eagle comics with Neil Vokes and Spandex and Lycra Girl,
Okay.
Skirls, whatever. So, but that's I saw that and that was cool because that's literally right up the street from me. Like, there's about 35 minutes away from me.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the I love the setup, right off the bat. Now, folks, you can judge the artwork and you can say, "Oh, this is some teenager or this is some young guy." Actually, the name is James C. Hallett, created, written, illustrated. This looks like a one-person army here, and
Yeah.
I love the setup, and so you could say, well, this is, the art is not professional. That's what we call a power comic, right? It's great because, they just put their heart out on the page, and But look at the story already. Okay, on the first page you got this guy here with the gun, and then here you're already into the backstory. See how you go
Come
to the,
on,
the
yeah.
the curved panels. The man the world would one day know as Blackmoon drifts into the realm of subconsciousness. Right. Now we're in a dream sequence, and it says the future. I remember the stories of how the man grew to power. They don't say the name. This is exactly our setup. This is the dehuberted, right? And how
It's
the power
great, man.
distorted his already evil soul. I won't accept this, gentlemen. As the years went on, the man became more deranged and misguided. Damn it, you just don't understand. I love these attempts at drapery. It looks like these little asterisks. Is that supposed to be a print, or is, is that it's like the Riddler's costume? And then here, but gentlemen, according to my calculations, what? And then down here, you could hardly even read it. It's like hidden. He eventually was convinced he could win the war that never had a chance. Already we're into some of these zipatones here and zipatones here. And then boom, a full-scale nuclear
Va
barrage
boom.
with the USSR. I guess there was still a USSR back then. Okay. In one blinding flash, it was gone. Half the world I knew, the country I loved and honored. Ta-doom. So I guess, Blackmoon is now going to be living in this post-apocalyptic landscape. Here we go. I was stationed in Japan at the time, within a research complex at the heart of Mount Fuji. The 5 foot thick walls that the Japanese government insisted on were probably the only thing that saved me and the few staff assistants who were on duty at the time. In the months to come, we got a new grip on what was left of the world. We'd set up home base on the new west coast of America. California fell during the war. Hey,
It's
squeeze it in. Come
awesome.
on. Move those crates down to the south parameter. Okay, so I'm going to be a spelling Nazi here. To the south parameter X8. We sent out recruiting patrols to search for remaining survivors. That's redundant. And to salvage equipment. The fallout hadn't affected us yet. What there was of a nuclear winter thawed out within 2 months. Needless to say, things were starting to turn around. I love this. I'm kind of like rooting for the kid to be like 15 or 16, but he could be 18, 19, 20. I don't think much beyond. I doubt much beyond that, but you never know. Um, by the end of the year, the patrols were returning mutated. Glablub. It had become too much. I began to devote 24 hours a day to finding a solution. One dark night, I found one. Setting the disk for 3 hours. Go now. Boop! Nothing happened. I don't understand. I should have. But wait, the clock on the wall now says 5 o'clock, and my watch still says 2. I discovered I had built a time displacement disk. It works. But how is it going to help us now? Hey, I've got it. All in one breath. It was just then I got the idea. The idea that if I could stop the war from ever occurring, that's a sentence, incomplete sentence, by stopping the man before he was ever elected to office, none of this would have ever happened. It sounded crazy, but in a world gone mad, I had little choice. I would leave at dawn.
That's great. That's
Oh
great.
my god.
It's so
I had
great.
right. So here now, this is the like kind of cliche montage. This is straight out of Rambo, right? Where they were suiting up. Ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching.
Yep.
I had dug up my old uniform, made a few adjustments. It was radiation proof and fit like a glove. And then yeah, you see he's putting on the sword. You got the mask. I'll need a code name, but what? I can't be Frank Johnson, scientist, ex espionage agent, etc. Wait a minute, that's it. I'll use my old code name, Black Moon. Dun, dun, dun. There's our setup. Now, okay, if I'm the editor, I'm like, okay, but who are you going after now? What are you doing? Are you back in time? Are so all these questions
Yeah.
about the man's name was Monroe, John W. Monroe, born Brooklyn, New York, April 5th, 1951. Graduated Columbia, class of 73. It wasn't much, but it was a start. First thing I had to do, you going to try to find the guy running for president or first thing I had to do was get to the East Coast, so I loaded 2 extra fuel tanks into a copter and I was off. This is not bad. This copter, this must be reference. And then here you got the post-apocalyptic landscape. I'm always looking at at this, and then he put this little dot in there. I don't know if that looks like a hand dot. I think he just stippled it or something. I set the time disk for 1970 just to make sure. I figured it was that the authorities would pass off the death as a typical gang mugging. Unfortunately, I relied too much on the accuracy of the disc. And then here you go from this to this. This is good storytelling here.
Yeah.
And as soon as I learned it wasn't 1970, but years later, in fact, it was only 15 short years before Monroe was elected into office. All right, I don't get it how he put in 1970, but he came in. This was only 15 years before he was elected, so it was inaccurate. But he said I relied too much on the accuracy. Sorry, my bad. I had to start from scratch. What he had been doing all these years, and more importantly, where was he now? The information was easier to come by than I thought. After all, when you become one of New York's biggest crime lords, every punk on the street knows who you are, where to find you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll tell you where he is. Just don't hit me. Who's getting tortured and is like relenting and says yeah, 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 yeah is when you're being okay. Never mind. The Richmond Building, right smack in the middle of the worst part of town. Not what I expected from a Godfather, but as they say, home is where the heart is. This guy's not really good at the graffiti. I can tell you right now. This is just like that's not authentic street
It's
graffiti
a
from
white
1980.
boy from the suburbs.
A white boy from PA. Yep, it's rural. The long run, but you know what? There's some real hints here of quality. The way that he's using the lights and the blacks. Look at the way that he's using this as a black
Yeah.
panel.
Yeah.
The long shadows. He's doing it here. I don't know if this is like Sin City era yet, but you know, this the fade from black to light. Um, definitely an artist in here. Richmond, I had to sit tight away from Monroe. The sharp, piercing sounds of siren awakens me from my daze, and I realize, missing an A, that within the hour it will be dark and time to leave my roost. I won't read every little thing, but here we can see that he's on the hunt for this guy, and this whole thing is just build up, kind of like a Daredevil scene, jumping from building to building, you know, definitely superhero-ish. I think this Blackmoon might really be influenced by Frank Miller and Daredevil.
Oh
The tr-
yeah. Oh
yeah, you
yeah.
think the
Oh
trip
yeah.
I'd made to this city commission seemed to be paying off. The air duct from the roof leads directly to the hallway outside Monroe's room, and here now he's got some goons stationed outside his door. So I pull a laser torch. It cuts through like a hot knife through butter. Jumps down. Get him, Rocco. Here I notice there's like some print anomaly. This is not the guy's fault, but looks like the printing press was not playing nice. Now hold it right there, buddy, and and Wheeze won't mess up your use up. Mitch use up too much. That is you got the one O on the two, and then the knife is pulled out. He could have used some sound effects here, right? Like where's the
Yeah.
swing?
Yeah.
The knife is cutting. The knife is pinning him to the wall, and then he's kicking the guy in the face. Here's our action. That was simple enough. Slam. Right. Look at this. This is a little bit like maybe just like straight from pencils to ink without too much refining. Right. And is that where we end? He's in the door.
Whoa.
No.
Whoa.
Let's see. Then we have an ad here for Comic Nook. Is that the place you're talking about?
Is that the
In
yep,
Wayne?
yep, that's it. Yep, that's it.
Yeah. The
Yep.
Comic Nook subscriptions, new comics, old comics, graphic
Yep.
novels, posters, t-shirts, open 7 days a week. How do they do it? All right. A wave of nausea sweeps over me as I enter Monroe's room. It's all out of some bad movie. the rooms like a sort of religious shrine, a vision shaped from the mind of a madman. It had all gold eagle presidential seal. It was the perfect. It was the perfect mockery of the man's future, a future I would change or die trying. Monroe, the time has come for this madness to end. Monroe, crash. Sorry, Monroe, but I don't have the time to chat. Butta, 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 butta. Uh-oh, here comes the goon squad. And here he's avoiding the shots. He's butta, butta, buttaing. I shoot out the lights. Good move on my part. They're blinded, and they think they're all in the dark. My infrared goggles tell me I'm not. Not. I'm not in the dark. All right, here we got this cool film, right? He's using these vertical stripes. This film, there's a couple of bucks to buy these films here. Now he's punching them. I toss a flash bomb. It works like a charm. Shatter. He's jumping out the windows. Boo, boots on the ground. Slam. They'll be coming for me. I'll have to move fast. My job was done, but I couldn't help thinking about it. Something's still bothering me. Of course, this storytelling is not the glorious ending of a villain. Obviously, they're glossing over this, so the guy's obviously still alive. It's just that room, Monroe's personality, so warped, I didn't suspect it. The presidential decor, it was some childhood dream that turned into an adult ob dash session. Why not put the hyphen up there? Isn't me? Or by me coming across the timelines, could it have altered history more than I thought? So now you see another figure emerging, taking two separate pieces, spelled wrong, of Monroe's life and mixing them together into one living nightmare. So now this guy is just a mannequin. The guy didn't check to see. So snicker, snicker, snicker. You gotta love the duality. I wonder if he took
Yeah.
this. Was Watchmen out? I guess maybe he was taking this from Watchmen.
No.
You got
No.
the back and
Oh well,
forth. I
maybe. Yeah,
love
yeah,
it.
yeah. It was. It was. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I love it. I love it. So he's still on this here now. Snicker, snicker. Oh well, either way, my job was done. And then you got the mask here, right? Ha ha ha. The dark blankets my escape as I slip into the night. And
Woo!
there's the cliffhanger. But guess what?
Oh
You're not going to
yeah.
believe this. This most incredible coincidence when I went up to visit Annabelle and I went to the only comic store in Ithaca. Guess what I found? I went through they had a box that was like $1 comics,
Yeah.
and I didn't find much of note. I'll go over with it with next time, but this was in there.
No way.
So this when you're seeing a number one, number two, it could be a couple of weeks, couple of months, could be even this still says 1986, so it's still within the same calendar year. But already I'm seeing he's using a different approach here with these. He's got some different films. He's got a finer gradient tint for the zipatones, and we're definitely not going to go over this, but this will definitely be worth a
Right.
flip through. If
Oh, that's awesome, Jake.
yeah, if you ever find this guy, I mean, just look at the growth
I'm
here.
hunting down.
You can
Yeah, because what
see.
I'm doing with most people is I'm researching them, and then once we get the video done, I can send them the video and help encourage them to come forward and share with them. Because as much as that we chuckle, especially with the grasp of the English language,
Yeah,
I never bought it for the writing.
of
I
course not.
I always bought them because A, it was espionage ninja, and B, it was a black and white book, and it was just that was my world when I was becoming a teenager. So I just find this book to be a real cornerstone foundation, in me wanting to become a comic book artist. I mean, that's I think how
Right,
serious a lot of things that were coming out. The craft was one where, and I've said this before, you take a Marvel comic book that's fully colored, fully rendered, fully realized, and when you're in your teens, you're not going to be able to obtain that, even with the help of drawing comics the Marvel way. But when I had my Ninja comics, I could copy the heck out of them. and still
Right.
feel a sense of like accomplishment, like, oh wow, I just drew this just like this guy drew his character, you know. And I must have drawn Blackmoon like a couple of times, and I even think he was on the cover of my social studies book. So,
Really.
you know, yeah,
Well,
oh
look. Well,
yeah,
look what
yeah,
happens. Look what happens
yeah,
here. It says, "Welcome to the second issue. I hope you notice some of the improvements." It's
nice.
he says he got a lot of criticisms and everything. So here's the letter column. But if you notice here, it's the same guy, and he's got some letterers now. John Halusky.
Wow,
I mean, the
wow.
night and day. Look at the lettering. But look at
He
this.
probably made a couple bucks and he spent it wisely. But
But look at
what does it
this.
say? Yeah,
Look, this is a quantum leap here in quality. It says, with
yeah.
an able assist from
Oh
Rich
wow,
Buckler, inks
that's
pages 5
awesome.
to 23.
That is
So,
awesome.
so here's page 2, here's page 3, here's page 4, and then here's page 5. Bum, bum, bum. Look at this. This looks like
Yeah,
Marvel Comics.
yeah.
They could take an inker. I mean, they could take a penciler that's just like wherever he is, and they could look at this thing.
Amplify it. Yeah,
Can you
yeah,
can you even? Come on. So
yeah. He
now,
spent his money wisely. He probably spent everything he made plus some to get
yeah,
there.
now he's in the
Rich. That's
game,
great.
right? And so
That is
here you have a
great.
lot more text, right? Yeah, and then this kind of like goes back and forth like this. He's interspersing. So the guy had a pretty interesting sense of how to lay out storytelling and panels and stuff.
Yeah.
And now you're getting all this extra value here. And so we're going here through the story. I never liked Times New Roman. You could have put the of down there, okay? But look at this. We're into the story, and this guy's a time
Fantastic.
traveler. We have this whole
Fantastic.
other issue here, and he's perched up on the roof. I noticed that he's got some of this scumbling, right? I'm not sure how you get there,
Like a
but
rag. It's like a dry brush kind of rag thing.
yeah, you're dipping a rag maybe, right?
Yeah. Blotting.
But then you don't want your original pages to be rubbing all the time, Um, so yeah, the antics ensue here, and so I guess who knows what happened with Black Moon after number 2? Like this
No, there's a
Rich
three. There's a three.
there's a number 3 and then done.
Yeah, there's 3 issues.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it was a miracle. It was just a coincidence that I got number 2. But folks, man, I mean, if you have a so-so artist and you invest in an inker, they'll just fix everything up. My goodness. I mean,
If the anchor's that good. It's
yeah. I
not
mean,
in Marvel DC terms, it was the responsibility of the anchor to fix pencils, even editorial corrections. But
right.
in the independent world, that just doesn't translate directly because you're an inker. You're the one that can fix, fucked up pencils.
Right, and it's not that these pencils were necessarily fucked up. They were just a little less professional, maybe amateurish. But the guy had a real sense of
Great
storytelling
storytelling.
and
Yep,
page
yep, yep.
layout,
Panel,
right? I
page layout.
mean,
Yep, yep,
I
yep.
mean, I wonder if he's just like taking Frank Miller Daredevil and just like looking at the layouts and say, okay, I'm just going to translate my story into those layouts.
It's interesting. We'd have to do a little
It's a
research.
good way to go if you're not sure what
Heck
to
yeah,
do.
heck yeah.
Yeah, so Rich Buckler, he was on Deathlock. He must have been willing to work indie. I'm sure he was getting professional top dollar. Might have been like 50 a page back then. Who knows? Um, I don't know. You think I don't think the guy could have got 100 a page in 1986, right?
Who
For,
knows?
just for
Who
inks,
knows? We'd have to
but
find
it
out.
saved the day, man. So really interesting. I can't believe the odyssey that we're on here.
Right.
But folks, if you make your comic, even if you're rushing it out, even if it's imperfect, it's a document in time. And I'm glad I can get this stuff for 50 cents, and it's really entertaining. Sometimes we laugh at the person's expense. I've been there as as a comic creator in my teens and early 20s. But it's a real time capsule to be able to talk about this. And same thing with records. You do appreciate the fact that somebody was able to get to the finish line, and
Very
so there's
impressive.
something to be said.
Yep.
And so now we're going to jump into Kurtz with no delay, with no ado. We
So now, yes, I am going back in time, literally to the beginning of my comic book collecting and getting involved. Now, I have always heard the same and similar stories from everybody else who got into comic books as an artist. It's usually a Marvel or DC character. They got a hold of it from a brother or whatever. There's something that from Marvel DC initially, they have a connection. I actually, the first comics I started buying were Charlton comics, or the modern 3-pack that they used to sell at the
oh,
grocery store. So when you got dragged to the grocery store with mom and you were good, you aren't a pain in the ass, and I'm speaking only of myself, not my brother and sister. Um, I would be like, hey, mom, would it be all right if I get this? And then, of course, she would say yes, but it would go against my allowance. So I learned to save up those chips and get
dude,
get payouts.
yeah, dude, at least you had an allowance. So think of how that sounds to other people.
so so we I used to have to take piano lessons,
Okay.
and that my brother did too, and it was for half an hour at the Concord Mall, and you got dropped off, and then my brother would go in, and I'd have to wander around the mall for half an hour, and then I would go in, and he would have to wander around the mall for half an hour. Now the arcade was basically the big thing. Walden's bookstore was the other big thing, but no comics, right? So I had gotten a issue of Daredevil. I have it somewhere around here. I had traded one of my Charlton comics to a friend of mine, Dante Whitley, in sixth grade, for his comic. And of course, this is also the dawn of ninjas and all this kind of stuff and everything. So and just really bad movies you would catch on Saturday afternoons. So with that being said, I was wandering around the mall, not having to take my piano lessons, or I took them. And there was a store called Spencer's Gifts.
Yeah,
So I
this
wandered in. Yeah, it was like an adult's shop. It seems very weird to say that, but it had a
it's a
lot of
giant
like,
chain. Everybody knows
yeah,
Spencer's Gifts. Yeah, they
before
sell
Hot
T-shirts and
Topics, before Hot Topics, this was where you got really esoteric things you just couldn't get at the Sears or whatever.
yeah,
So I'm wandering around. They have a spinner rack, and this is on the spinner rack. Now it's encased in plastic, so there's no way I can get into it. It says shrink wrap. You either rip it apart and you take your chances of getting thrown out or whatever. It was only $7, right? Yep. And I said, you know what? I've got like $7 on me or something like that. I'm buying it because this must just be, and you could get big comic books, graphic novel comics that I would read at the Walden's bookstore, and I just took a chance because this just caught my eye. This airbrushy graphic thing, and to be honest with you, it was cheap for something like this. The other ones were usually like $10 or something.
yeah. I
Get
mean,
it home.
the cover looks just like heavy metal or
But I don't even know what heavy metal is. I don't have anything other than the Concord Mall and taking piano lessons and having 30 minutes to wander in and out of a bookstore.
well,
And
1980 heavy metal was just coming out, so
yeah,
you
but I
missed
never,
it.
I had no access to it. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah,
had no
yeah.
no thing. I opened this thing up, and what happened? I have to say, there was a brief, and I'll open it up. There was a brief. Oh no! Like it's not a comic book.
Right.
It's
Oh
an
no,
art book.
this is an encyclopedia or something.
No, it's not an encyclopedia. This
Oh,
is
it's a
all
how
of the
to.
tech. This book changed my trajectory forever when it came to art. This is Peter Andrew Jones, and
It's
he
a
was a very
portfolio book.
success. It is. It's one of those first. These were coming out right around the same time Valentine was doing Frazetta and Boris Vallejo.
Yeah,
And I could not afford those books. And also, the covers always had naked ladies on them. So my
yeah.
mom wasn't going to no, you're not, you're not, I wasn't going to get into that, please. Once again, I have to say these images, if you notice, they're in comic book kind of like paneling format. But this is the image that still today sticks with me because I was also playing Dungeons and Dragons at this point. So you want to talk about a perfect storm. As much as I really love and enjoy comic books, especially the inking part of it, I'm also a huge fantasy art. I do a comic called Crom the Barbarian, which
Yeah.
I'm doing a new um, realization of collection,
Right. Yes.
taking these and go.
Comic creators, get in touch with us if you're interested in Crom. It's it's kind of like an everybody can do it, and we're definitely going to be
Well, you're
promoting.
talking about the public domain. He's a public domain character, but we'll go
Yeah,
through it.
yeah, yeah.
So, so these, and I just want to pick up for where I was saying with Black Moon. So a couple of years, I'm going to be collecting black and white comics, ninja stuff, Independence, and Black Moon. And like I said, Frazetta and Boris were very difficult to copy. And so when you would copy a Boris
This
or
guy's this yeah. Just spend some time on a page and see if you can get rid of that glare at the top.
yeah, I'm
This
trying.
is guys. This is something. We talk about Boris and Frazetta. If you took this picture that Kurt's showing you right now, you just like hit it with a little of brightness and contrast. You would this is really amazing. The
It
way
it
it's kind of washed out over the video, but
yeah.
you know, this guy, yeah, I'm really impressed. Let me not interrupt. Go ahead, Kurt.
But yeah, no, I could I once again I could copy pretty decently. Now here's another thing.
Well,
Here's
that piece looks like it's yeah,
his drawings
yeah.
here. Now, yeah,
He starts you out
yeah,
with some less
yeah.
impressive
I mean,
stuff.
if there was ever a
It's
time that I
weird.
actually started reading anything, it was now. And
Yeah,
so, I would get into airbrushing. He got into airbrush. I mean, uh, Peter Andrew Jones is just a very very like corner fundamental foundation part of my development. And here's the kicker: I get his email, so he's in England. I
yeah.
have I finally just did something that I've always wanted to do, and I just sent him an email
Mm-hmm.
explaining exactly what I just explained. And of course, he came back a day later, very very like humbled by it. And
Yeah,
he does a 4 times a year magazine of his art and fantasy, maybe some writing and stuff. And so
that's a lot.
he's gonna put my email in the magazine, and he's gonna send me a copy of the magazine. So I thought this was going to be a good idea for doing using comics that influence to share this book. You can get this book for basically $7 on Amazon. These aren't really that hard to find,
Well, this was his
but
opus. This was definitely his opus. I'm
this
on his
is
website.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep. And so
He says monthly, by the way, on his website.
yeah,
So
he said he wasn't doing it till December, or maybe there
is
was
it
something in
is it a digital format or is it a print
uh,
format?
I don't know. No, it's a
Okay.
printed one because he needed my address. So what I'm
Gotcha.
hoping is going to happen is once we've completed this video and it's live. I'm going to reach back out and send the video to him, and then we're going to see if we can get Peter Andrew Jones on to talk about his career, because he's I mean, meeting Frazetta, I have met Boris many times because of the IX, the LuxCon fantasy art show that I used to attend before COVID as an artist. And he's great. I mean, Boris is really great.
Yeah,
I
he's
never got to meet
everybody
Frazetta.
knows Boris Vallejo.
But Peter Andrew Jones would be a real connection, like the ring of completion in me as a developing artist to meet a hero of mine and be able to hear even more specifics and even hear some of the answers to questions Like did you use oils, tempera, gouache, just these things on certain
Yeah,
pages and stuff. I
yeah. I
mean, but
mean,
this is obviously the cover, and there's like two
he's a
versions of
definitely
it.
a find. He's definitely a find. And what Kurt is showing you is just his first thing, 1980. People got to go to his website, and Kurt
I'll
will
put a link
link
in the
it.
description. Yeah,
Yeah, but it's peterandrewjones.net, and it seems like he gives away like dozens, if not hundreds, of free images of his art, but it's
yeah.
all low res, and it just makes you want to see, the high res. He's
Yeah.
got
He teases
he's
you.
got yeah, these index pages, and you can see, like, I mean, if you were going to like try to save it or something, it's tiny,
Yeah,
because like it's really just a grid of artworks. Like if you save the artwork, it's a perfect little preview. Actually, when you save it, you get a much better look at it, than looking at it on the web. But he gives that all away, and I'm sure he's got to be selling this stuff digitally. And then he's also, just he could also send you a print. And then he's putting these monthly. He says monthly periodicals out, and Kurt's about to receive the latest one. So this is great, awesome
yeah.
find.
I also have to just say this: there's um, 70s sci-fi book covers was a real like wealth of of taking chances and inventing lands and spaceships and creatures. um
Legendary Art Studios.
you know and for me, he still holds highest in just the originality of just coming up with like what is this. I know it's probably for a magazine or a book. I don't know if this was actually this is a story, like these are the characters in an actual paperback from the 70s, but it just blew me away of the world that I was able to get pulled into when it got down to like it's just he just
So
a real master, a real master.
during 1973, he was in the second year of his graphic design course at St. Martin's, and he was given a paperback edition of science fiction author, and it just completely made him find his genre. And so he's been basically doing these covers. He's credited with some Larry Niven covers, Keith
Mm-hmm.
Roberts, Jack Womack, A. Evan Vogt, and E. Doc Smith was, I guess, his inspiration. Yeah, so he's definitely like in the Frazetta Boris mold, doing
Yeah,
paperback covers in the 70s,
yeah,
right? But his art is so great, it's also perfectly adaptable to magazine covers, to
yeah.
posters, to album covers. And I'm looking at some movies. The Sword and the Sorcerer. Are
Yes,
you kidding
yes.
me?
Yep, movie
That's my
poster.
that's my jam.
That's your jam. That's mine too. That's what I'm saying. Like
Doesn't
he
it have
he
like
cre-
Elkie Summers or something in there?
yeah, I can't remember, but yeah.
He did well. This guy did the poster, and sorry, Kurt, to make you do more work, but uh, Kurt needs to add in the cover for the
I
Sword
will.
and the Sorcerer
Yep,
poster
yep.
by
Movie
Peter
poster.
Andrew Jones. By Peter
Yes,
Andrew Jones.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so he's got some paperback covers, some movie posters. Um, Now here's the big question: where's the sequential, Kurt? Where's the sequential stuff?
Oh,
Where
there's no
any
sequential in
comic?
here.
No
Nope, no
comic. Oh,
comics.
what a
No
tease!
comics. Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah,
Because that's what happened to me. That's the whole rub. I bought this thinking it was going to be a big, thick comic book. I was briefly, like by seconds, disappointed. But I think once I got to this page, I went, "Oh no! I think I just did myself a solid.
dude,
This is superior.
dude, I say this
I
right
can't.
now. I say this right now to the world. If Kurt, if you want to go halfies and get this guy to do a Crom cover
Oh
for your
boy,
next book,
that's. I've been
I'll
thinking
go
about it.
halfies. I'll go
Okay,
halfies on
okay,
that.
Okay.
All right.
We got to see if
So
he's still working. That's
well,
the
he's
one
got a
thing. So
website. He's got a
yeah,
website, and he's putting
yeah,
himself out there. I mean, it
yeah,
sounds like he's selling his journal,
yeah.
but the fact that you haven't heard about it till now, or I haven't heard about it till now, it's crazy.
Mm.
This guy isn't like one of the big names right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, it is a
Yeah.
shame. It
So
is a shame. But
at
yeah,
least not,
that's
in my circles. Maybe more competent people have heard of him. You said you had this in your hands when you were a kid, right?
I got this when I was 13 years old.
Right. So the guy stuck around on the web right now, and I'm really looking forward to the follow up on this.
Yeah, me too. So that's what I've got, and that's what we have. Another episode of Comics and Influence, and
Folks,
I don't have anything else.
if anybody wants to chip in to hire this guy to do art, Kurt is putting out Crom. We're gonna promote it here, and it's public domain character that any artist can take on, and people are doing these fan anthologies, and Kurt has compiled some of the stuff. Kurt, how much Crom stuff is out there that you haven't put out?
I don't have any new material that hasn't been published yet.
Right, but you've carefully cataloged who's put out Crom material over the years,
Yeah,
right?
there's three other individuals. One's a publisher, Lucky Comics, and then there's one. Oh gosh, I'm
A
kind of
couple.
blanking.
There's
There's
some
two
folks out
others.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah. So and the point of it,
CromTheBarbarian.com has links to everybody that's done some
yeah,
Crom the Barbarian stuff.
people. I really encourage people to think about Crom as a copyright free Conan that anybody can use, and that's the origin of Crom because the writer was a contemporary of Robert Howard, and they just freely used each other's idea with a name change in another publishing company. Right, that's the pulp business, the pulp
Yeah,
era, and
yeah.
so now in 2023, Kurt is putting out a lovely Crom like kind of digest size, right? And
Yeah, this is currently purchasable, but now I'm working on a because I've been doing this gray values. I've been doing
the second iteration.
yeah, I'm doing a more rendered version. And there'll be some updates on my Kurt Inker YouTube channel where I'm having Jake do some sit down with me on videos and give me some art direction. And
Yeah, we're
so,
definitely collabing on the Crom because,
yep,
if it's a public, sorry, if it's public domain, there's no reason why I can't do a Crom. Kurt's been doing Crom for a while. Everybody should feel free to do Crom and get your best artwork out there using a vehicle that has a built-in audience, which is sword and sorcery, and
right,
slash fantasy and anything you make of it. I
right.
mean, is somebody gonna do like Crom, like in the nowadays, like 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 they when they did Harriet Tubman Demon Hunter, right? I mean,
Oh, I don't
because
know.
when then something's like on the free to anybody, you could have some really low quality art, some cutthroat businesses, like all those job places where they have closeouts and they have graphic novels of comics. You might see all kinds of public domain characters just exploited, by commercial artists on the cheap, and just
Yeah,
putting stuff out there like fluffing up.
yep.
I noticed that. I noticed that when I started hearing about Crom,
Yep.
I started looking into the stuff.
Yeah. So, with that all being said, let's shut this down because we are about that 45-minute point where we're always trying to keep it bite sized and let people get back to reading comic books, making if they do. Anything else, Jake, before we head out?
No, you haven't been hearing my doggy Zenny, have you? In
Oh,
this?
yeah.
Because
Yeah, we have.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, yeah. She was barking a little like crazy, but I didn't jump off the pod to see what's going on. So somebody's
That's
around.
right.
um. So yeah, Kurt, looking forward, and people should check our other series, which is the Comic Exchange, Comic Creator Exchange, and Kurt, we're just about, after we finish this one, to record an interview with
Matt King, who did Tales of Enlightenment. Tales to
right
Enlighten. Tales to Enlighten. So
Tales to
yes,
Enlighten
we're
Deluxe
20 minutes.
Edition.
We're 20 minutes away from that, so we got to jump off and get prepped. So that's what we got, people.
All right, folks. Awesome talking to you. Later.
Later.